Hello, everyone. My name is Sola Abulu. I'm the principal consultant of Sola Abulu and Associates, and I'm here to record this video just to do a short, sort of like, how would I say, just a lineup of what some of the common challenges that I've seen in the communications profession in recent times. And the reason why I chose to do this video is because I had seen that there was just a lot of So I'd seen that, there was just a lot of things going on in terms of, challenges in the public relations and communications field particularly. And I think I'm speaking more for the communications field, even though I will put PR in there because I know that some people are more on the PR side of things. So it's that field generally, but a lot of what I'm saying is mostly applicable to communications, but also partially to PR. So anyway, whichever side of the spectrum you rely on, there should be something in this for you. It's just going to be a very short video. Now, first of all, and I've lined up a list of 15 things, which is quite long. I first wanted to say five, then seven, then 15, but let's just see how we work through it. Now, first of all, there's a skills gap. There's a very serious skills gap in the PR and communications field in Nigeria. What do I say that? We have a lot of people who are at entry level doing, either through working on social media or doing something of that sort, but we don't have as many people. So we don't have as many people involved in what I'll call, the more strategic side of things. So you find out that it's almost like for most professions, you would like to have people who are early stage because that's the future. The middle level is supposed to be like really, really, like big, where you have, people who are transitioning to leadership, they've already transitioned or about to transition, and then the senior leaders who are the people who sort of like sets the direction. They're the ones that are agenda setting, advice leadership, and all of that. So, but what we are finding, and I would really like if some of the more senior practitioners watch this video. My observation is that we're too thin on top. We're too thin in terms of the senior leaders. We're not strong enough in terms of the middle management leaders as well. A lot of and I'll talk about this a bit. People seem to be struggling from transitioning to that tactical side of things. Just do this into the strategic. That is more like, why are we doing this? Okay, this is the problem. This is how we solve it, and then how do we quantify the impact, that very, very strategic level where you are setting the agenda. So there's just a lot of people who, I mean, if you're looking at a funnel, it's like there's a lot of people down here. It's getting very thin, but it's getting thin too early, and the thinness is not commensurate with the number of people coming in at the entry level. I know a lot of what I'm saying may not make sense to everyone, but I just put it out there. At some point, if it doesn't make sense now, it will make sense later. So I'm also seeing, and I'm not going to spend too much time on any of them because this is supposed to stimulate conversation and reflection. So if any of this resonates with you, I would like you to comment and just say something about it, and then we will. I mean, then we know where we're going to from there, and we can have a further conversation. So this is just me sharing my thoughts, and then let's see where we go from there. So, like I said, so another of reflection is that I see that there's a need for apprenticeship, in most of. Sorry, just hold on a bit. So we see that there is a need for apprenticeship, which most of the time is not fully well understood from people within the sector. Yeah, so as I was saying, sorry for that. So there's a need for apprenticeship that people in the sector are not very much aware of. This is all my reflections. What is apprenticeship? And it's a pity because in some parts of the world, apprenticeship is done in a more formal way, but we don't really have it that way in Nigeria. We don't have apprenticeship programs for our field, our course of study. So that's a little bit of a disadvantage, I would say, because that means that people do not have the opportunity to learn and grow on the job. And it is very important in our profession because and I see a lot of people thinking that you can just wing it. You can't wing it, because you see there are a lot of things that you only find out, you learn over time. It's almost like, it's almost, and I can't use a better word, just like apprenticeship when you're learning in the tailor's shop and everything. You may be coming every day and they're not telling you to do anything other than to sew buttons or whatever, but just watching how the madam or whoever deals with customers, the different type of customers that come, the different types of clothes that they make and all of that, and just being in that environment, you are learning without realizing that you're learning. So there's a need for that. And unfortunately, again, a lot of comms people find themselves in environments where there's no opportunity to be an apprentice to somebody, because apprenticeship does not happen in a vacuum. You're an apprentice to somebody, or to some people, or within a group. Apprenticeship is not a person, not if you are, it's not a one person thing. You're an apprentice. The word of apprenticeship by means you are, there's somebody else. You know what I mean? So if you are there are some environments that are not, you can't be apprenticeship, because there is nobody that is senior to you, that is more experienced in the field of comms. They be more experienced in other things that they're doing. So that's a problem. That's a challenge. Again, we're talking about challenges here. In another video, I will talk about how we can mitigate some of these challenges. But I think the reason why I'm doing this is just so that, because I feel that a lot of people are struggling, and then they're thinking, is it me? I'm here to tell you that it's not you. There's a systemic issue here within our context in Nigeria. And I had to hone this on Nigeria, because I am aware that other African countries, it's a little bit different for some of them. Some are more like us, but some are very different from us as well. So I didn't want to put out something that makes it look like it's like this all throughout all the, in our profession. No, it's not everywhere. It's not like this everywhere. So again, another thing I've observed, this number three, I think is applicable everywhere, at least in most places. So people recruit primarily within the same sector. And I think this is important for comms professionals to know, because I've seen people trying to, when you want to change jobs, if you've done comms for a long time in like NGO setting, it will be challenging for you to compete for a job in corporates with other people who have had like 10 years corporate, and you are like 10 years NGO, because it's not the same. And people are, you know they will look at it that you don't understand that commercial thing about, value for money, return for investment, and all of that. I mean, people in the NGO world, you are living based on donors. These people in the corporate world, business world, they make their money from selling things, from purchasing, from buying. From If they don't make money, they die out. They can't ask people to donate money to them. They can't do it, go for me. So it's a completely different setting. So people are likely to recruit. And I found that most of the people that I know, they move from like bank to bank, pension fund to pension fund, NGO to NGO, it's maybe local to international or whatever, but it's within the same sector. And it's not that that's the way they want it, but for a job that is competitive, people want to know that you have requisite experience. So it's important as a comms person to understand this. So why I'm saying this is that if you have a desire to go into an NGO or corporate at some time, don't spend more than 10 years in another context, because once you spend 10 years somewhere, I'm telling you, your career pathway is more or less set. Again, there is nothing is impossible with God. It doesn't mean that God cannot make things happen. But by and large, without divine intervention or whatever, or serendipity, or however you want to put it, for most people, that is what happens. Recruit primarily with the sector. I mean, even for me as a communications consultant and an expert for many years, and having, I find out that now my strongest pull as a consultant is from the energy industry. And that's because they believe that, okay, she understands what we're talking about. For consulting, particularly for training, yes, it's cuts across different sectors, but for the consulting, energy is like 6 out of 10, if not 7 out of 10. And the other sectors, the pull is not as much. For the other sectors, I would have to do a bit of, leaning in. But for the energy sector, I don't have to do that much. The pull is coming from there. It's a pull thing. It's not, it's actually a very strong pull. So eh, that so recruitment work, it works most of the time within a sector, which is why make sure that you are an expert in the business of a particular sector. Then you can still be doing other things, because you have to have that parent sector that your how would I say, your expertise is homed in. And then you can then also be somebody that moves across sectors. But let there be one primary sector that is your home, that is your bread and butter, is that is attached to you. Because honestly speaking, the markets, that's the way the market works. And again, I'm not going to spend too much time on this, but I believe if you have any questions, comments, just put it, and then we can have a conversation. We have to touch, there's a lot we have to do. Now, there seems to be a higher demand. I may be wrong about this, but this is my perception. But there seems to be a higher demand for highly skilled comms practitioners that can lead teams, projects, and be accountable for delivery, take full ownership, and deliver results with minimal supervision. Because when I look at LinkedIn, those are the kind of jobs that I see. I hardly ever see jobs asking for entry level this and that and that. And the reason why is because most of the entry level, I think, most people, it's very easy to get. I mean, there are more people obviously in that space, but the challenge is getting comms practitioners that can lead teams, that can manage projects end to end, be accountable for delivery, take full ownership, and deliver. When I even put minimal supervision here, actually, most of the jobs that I see out there, they're looking for people that can deliver without any supervision. They know what to do. And I have seen this happen a lot. And again, this is why I said this, what I'm saying is centered more on strategic comms because, and in the corporate comms setting, maybe institutional comms, either working for a very big player or a multinational or an international institution or a major institution. When you are working for those big corporate business or institutional players, there's no room for, it's like, I don't know how to explain it. It's very easy to be exposed if you don't really know what you're doing, because nobody is going to be telling you. They're just going to be expecting that you know what to do, and they're expecting that you should take ownership, you should take leadership, you should be able to initiate things. Now, many of the business or organizational leaders out there, they don't really know what comms is all about, but they know what it is not supposed to be. They have very strong views when they see something that, oh, this is not supposed to be this way, but they may not be able to tell you the right way to do it. But when they see wrong, they know it, which is a problem. So this is something that I see a lot. There's a higher demand. Highly skilled comms practitioners, honestly, they will not be unemployed for a long time. There are people that are willing to take them on. And I've seen it even for people who have made that transition from tactical to strategic. I mean, this year, I know a number of people that contacted me, they've got a new job. So there are prospects for comms people. Let's not lie. People are changing jobs, they're getting better jobs, but it is for people who have gotten some level of some skill and they understand what strategic comms is all about. So, another thing, number 5, many are struggling with transition to strategic from the tactical. And I've alluded to this in everything I'm saying. I'm seeing that a lot where, like I said, early stage, you can start, it's okay for you to be doing all the, oh, I'm making social media posts, I'm just doing this, you're just being tactical about it. But 5 years, 6 years, 7 years in your profession, and people are expecting a little bit more. They're expecting you to be able to advise. They're expecting you to be able to lead, to be able to initiate, to see connections from things. They're expecting you to be able to modify, to transform. They're expecting a lot. They're expecting you to be able to sit down and think on your own and say, what should we be doing this year? Based on how things have gone last year, based on the things that we've learned, what should we be doing differently? They're really expecting that from you. And I see that a number of people really, really struggle with that because some of us really struggle with that. We struggle with that because we are so used to being tactical and then nobody's showing us how to be strategic, that we're just there, just doing what we know how to do. And if that's where you are now, the message of this is to say that there gets a time when even nobody will want that from you. And your years of experience, they're expecting from 7 years onwards that you're no longer tactical yet, but you're a bit strategic. Now, many of us do not also understand the link between strategy and tactics. It's also the same thing where we do not understand that you cannot just jump into tactics without having a strategy. Because if not, you're just going to be running like people say, like a headless chicken. So it's like somebody that just goes out and just starts shouting. Why are you shouting? You don't even know why you're shouting. Oh, they just said that we should go and publicize something. And so that you said you should go and publicize. Who told you that shouting is the best way to go about it? By the way, this community that you are going to, it may even be a quiet place, a place where they don't like noise. So, yes, they told you to publicize, but you have to understand why. You have to come back and ask yourself, what is the best way to publicize this thing? Not just go out and be making noise. And that's what I see a lot of us doing. When they just say, oh, go and do this. Okay, let's just create bot. Let's do it. You're not even sitting down to ask yourself, why? Who are we going to speak to? What is the messaging? Where is this company coming from? What are they trying to achieve? What is success? And how do we know when we get there? That's the link. Now, What I have found personally, which is I'm a very strong advocate of strategic communication. Everybody knows me. In fact, I'm just trying to tone down a bit now because I used to come across very, very strongly. But why I say it is because I find out that once I sort out the strategy, tactics are very easy. But because there are so many options of things that you can do. Personally, I don't understand people who can do strategy, who can be tactical without thinking about strategy. Because I'm like, how do you decide? For instance, I mean, I like to give examples. Imagine I have a party, and then, I have to first ask myself, what kind of look do I want for that going into that party? I have to first determine how I want to look before I talk about which fabric, which dress, which style. If I don't have a vision of the end result or and why, it's very because then it's going to be all over the place. So that's exactly how strategy and tactics is. So for some events, for instance, I attended an event on Friday. Friend was having a birthday party. She wanted everybody to come up in pastel grand. And so you had to be grand, you had to be dressy, you had to be pastel. And then, of course, again, I have to think about what's age appropriate for me, then my own vibe, my own personal. I had to really think about it. You know what I mean? And you have to think about, first of all, you want to honor your friend, so you must do something that is whatever for her and all of that. But you also want to be true to yourself to some extent. So, you can't, just do what every other person is doing. But then the color themes, the styles that are permitted within that zone, how then do I want to present myself? That's so by the time you do that, it's not easy for me to choose, okay, this kind of fabric, no, not this one, but this one, this color, it has to be this color, this one, I can't change this color because whatever I do, I must stay true to the color theme. Do you understand? That's how it is. So for me, I personally I don't understand why, but it's so much easier when you have that framing before you now start deciding. Otherwise, you'll be choosing this. You don't know which one to say yes to, which one to say no to, where to go, where to. You just be, and then when your boss now asks you, why did you choose this? You have nothing to say because there was no strategy. So again, another problem now, coming back to pathways, this is a big sub point for me. Number seven, they are not the pathways for growth in communications for younger career practitioners is not very clear. And I really, really feel bad about that because I think that really, really affects a lot of people coming up, and they don't really know what the prospects are for them, what the opportunities are. And I'm hoping that some of us, working together can begin to make this a little bit more clear. I'm hoping that systemically, that we can do a lot more on the advocacy side so that the institutions that are supposed to be really helping in this way, even if there'll be a coalition of support where we can begin to put some structure around some of these things and let people know that if I want to grow in internal comms, I want to become a corporate comms manager in like 10 years or 5 years, what do I need to do in terms of certification, in terms of certificates and of training, in terms of what kind of job should I be looking for, where can I volunteer, how do I get those skills? Because I mean, I personally believe if you get the right mix of all of these things together, it will be easier for you to compete for those jobs that are coming out in number four here, higher demand for highly skilled comms practitioner. That's what I believe, to be honest. So anyways, so limited graduate trainee pathways, again, that's another thing. Many other functions, they have graduate trainee pathways that some of these big companies do for them, and they may recruit maybe 10, 12 people at a time. For us, it's not common. Even if they employ a PR and comms person, maybe there will be one out of like 16 or 25, whereas some other professions may have three or four. They may hire like five people who studied economics, or engineering or whatever. But the comms person or whoever is on that pathway, maybe there may just be one. So that's a little bit of a challenge for us. And the graduate trainee pathways are very good for that apprenticeship model because most of the big organizations that have graduate trainee pathways, they would have made sure that there is some sort of like job shadowing and sort of like onboarding thing that goes with this. Another problem, though, again, these are problems, but it's not a biggie because either way, graduate trainee jobs are anyone. It's just that I think it's more scarce in our profession and in our field. So now confusion between PR and comms. Now on the flip side, I think again this is so let me still on that graduate training side. That's about formal corporate entry level. Another an advantage though is that it's very easy to get a low entry job in communications. It's just that when I say low, it will really be low, and yeah, it's not structured and all that. That is also a disadvantage that has made many people look at the that has fostered that belief that anybody can do comms, which is really not true. But we'll talk about when we get to the next number. I'm just saying that my numbering is a bit off, so apologies for that. That should be, yeah. So confusion between PR and communication, that's another problem that we have. It's a big one, and I've talked a lot about this on a lot of my channels, and I will never stop because I see that we have to give this a conversation that we really really have until the end of time, and there's a big confusion, and there's a big difference between PR and communications. PR is externally focused, it's about relationship building, it's about promotion, advertising, publicity, and all of that. Communications is about messaging, it's about engagement, it's about sharing your point of view and your perspective. Communications doesn't always have to be promotional, it doesn't always have to be advertising. It could contain advertising, but sometimes communication is just about having your say. Like if you're doing an advocacy and influencing campaign, it's not really, you may not really want to promote yourself. It's you're promoting the message, not a brand, not a product, not a service, or that kind of thing. So and then so PR is relational, and it also has a bit of face to face and impersonal touch. Communications doesn't necessarily have a personal touch all the time. It could have a personal touch, but not all the time. Sometimes it focuses on getting messaging that grabs you, that draws you in, but it's not necessarily personal as in one to one. It's the message that is just sharing ideas, thoughts, is engaging. So it's a very, how would I put it this way, it's not person based, but it has a way of, it's about using words and language to draw people into your point of view. Whereas PR is more likely to use not only words but language, also likely to use a personality or a person, a real person that you're going to be having interaction with, and things like that. So it's just different. And a very important difference, for instance, is that communications has the internal com side, which PR doesn't. There's nothing like internal PR. If you have to be PRing your employees, then there's something very, very wrong with the way in which you're working, because your employees are supposed to be your brand ambassadors in the first place. So if you have to then PR them, no, that's not what you do. So yeah, the word for that is employer engagement, which is different from PR. Am I communicating somehow? The conversation continues. Again, so this should be number 10 there. Believe that anybody can do communications. That's a very harmful fallacy that has really injured our profession, because that has made a lot of people, be hired into positions that they shouldn't have been. It's also made some organizations put people in leadership of comms teams that should never, ever, ever have been leaders of comms teams. It's so scandalous. That thing pains me. And the painful thing for me is that they won't do this with other professions. They won't bring a leader into HR that is not an HR expert. They will not bring a leader into commercial that is not a commercial expert. They will not bring a leader into legal that is not a legal luminary. So why is it that with comms, you people just bring people from anywhere and you think that they can just function? It's not just comms, it's not just, and then when you now put a professional under that person is struggling to let the person see their own point of view, because comms is a technical field. It is not I don't understand, and I need to get, because I think the sad thing for me is that I think some of our professionals too think that comms is just, oh, just write, just post. No, it is not just write, just post. It is not. If you are handling communications for like a major organization or institution, it's not about just writing and posting. Even if you are handling communications for yourself and you are in a particular precarious position, it is not about just writing and posting, because you may write and post something that will make the matter worse for you. So it's not anybody that can do comms. No. On a fundamental level, and again, there's a very big difference between communicating as an individual and communicating for an organization. It's two different things. Communicating on behalf of a brand, communicating on behalf of a leader, particularly a very influential one. These are things that you go to school to learn, and even if you do not learn in school, you go for training, workplace training, to learn how to do it better, because there's so many angles. There's the brand, there's the social media, there's the online present marketing, there's the communications, there's the these days there's misinformation, there's disinformation, there's understand how do you even understanding how media works and how to develop your own share of voice. How do I strengthen my voice? How do I advocate? How do I influence? How do I make sure that in all of the messages that go out, my own message resonates? How do I get the attention of the audience that I'm trying to attract? These are not things. I mean, try now, try. We're all competing for the same space. Anyway, so lack of understanding about the breadth incomes, that's another big problem. People don't know how broad the profession is. So you would a job that requires somebody that is so for instance, people don't know the difference between PR and media relations. They don't know the difference between media relations and social media. They don't know that website communications has its own area. And that even on social media, everybody has their platform. For instance, me, I'm a LinkedIn person. I'm not very good. Twitter, I use Twitter for listening, but I don't know how to like Twitter is not my place for like engagement and communication. That's LinkedIn. I understand LinkedIn fundamentally. In fact, I think I even understand YouTube. I'm better at YouTube and maybe Instagram than Twitter. But Twitter, I understand how the platform works for listening, for advocacy, for intelligence, all of that. So I use it as a listening tool and to gauge the pulse of the population and all of that. But in terms of my own personal strength, and I use it more for strategic things. But LinkedIn, I understand it on the strategic and a tactical level. Am I communicating what I'm saying? So because it's my platform, and I've noticed that all of us have our platforms. So the way I describe it, as, oh, that one is a Facebook person, it's an Instagram person. Some people are TikTok people. I am 100% more of a LinkedIn person, but I'm also YouTube. I'm also Instagram. Instagram, I use it mostly for shopping and all of that. And yeah, but my news feed is Twitter. So I'm on everything that is news around the world. I am on it through Twitter. And I understand the digital communities. I understand the point of view. I know some of the influencers. So I know how it works, but treat it like a stakeholder engagement place. So I'm saying this just to say that. So I understand social media very well from a strategic point of view, not as a user. That's the point I've been trying to make. I understand Twitter as a platform that can be used to drive and raise an agenda. In fact, it can be used for many things. I don't want to talk about some of the things. It can be used for many things, politically, business. I understand it very well. On a strategic level, what needs to be done? So, and that's one element. Then there's the content creation, there's the visual communications, there's the communication strategy piece, there's the aspect of communications that is only people who work in structured organizations that will ever see, which is policy, standards, processes, structure, team building. And I'm saying this because I'm a communications consultant and I know the kind of work that we are called in to do. I know the kind of work that we are called in to do. And because when the rubber hits the road and things need to be done, like our people say in Nigeria, if you didn't day, didn't day. You understand? You cannot do what you don't know how to do. So this number 9/10 that anyone can do comes no, and there's the breadth of comes. So even I as a consultant, depending on some work that I do, some I will do it all by myself. Although these days I try not to do that by myself anymore. But I assemble teams and I get people for different specialisms within the profession. So if I'm doing a media training, even though I understand the media, whatever and everything, I will still get a media specialist with me. And a media specialist is someone that has done media all their working life. I have done all of it, all of comms. I've done PR, I've done brand, I've done media in very small degrees, I've done comms, I've done government relations and all of that. So I haven't done, I'm not a media specialist. I am a comms generalist, but I'm a specialist in crisis management, reputation, and brand, but I'm not a media specialist. But I understand media strategy. But if I have to do something, a piece of work that requires a media specialist, I will go and look for that media specialist and bring on that work. That's the point I'm saying. Because I understand the breadth. And I know that for certain jobs, a specialist is what is needed. And every profession has this. It's like even in the medical profession, I mean, you have the general practitioner. There's some you may the person, or even let's assume you're a gynae doctor and you have a patient. She's your patient and she's expecting, she's your patient. That's fine. But there's some challenges she will have, like maybe with heart or whatever. You know, you have to call a cardiologist. It doesn't mean that you are not whatever, but this person needs to see a heart specialist and you are not a heart specialist. So the person is not going to stop seeing you. The person will still see you because you are a gynecologist. But then you refer the person to the cardiologist. Whatever the cardiologist will run tests. She'll still come back to you and say this one. So you and cardiologist will be working together. That's the way it is. But there's some patient, but you have to do that because this patient has this peculiar need. But other patients that don't have that need, you can treat the person by yourself. That's what I'm saying. So a proper medical practitioner, imagine you're a medical practitioner that does not know when to refer your patient to a cardiologist, doesn't know when to call a cardiologist in, doesn't know when to call any other expert. Or you are a charlatan now. You have to know because it is what you know that you then recommend to your client or your patient. And that's exactly how it is for us too. If you don't know, because as a comms person, if you're working, you should be able to tell your team, your bosses and say, I think we need to get this somebody to help us with this. And that's that. So if you don't know that breath, you'll not even be able to suggest it. So the best comms roles out there, my next reflection, they are in international companies and major brands, to be honest. The smaller brands, okay, just take them. I think the tech PR jobs too are okay to do for a while. Tech comms job are okay too. But the best jobs out there where you're going to learn really what they call strategic comms is those international companies and major brands. That's what I've said. When I say major brands, like the global brands that have, like maybe the food manufacturing companies and all of that, the fast moving consumer goods and all of that, that have local presence in Nigeria, but and I know not everybody can work there, but I'm just telling you so that if you have the opportunity, just you jump at it. 2 3 years, you will learn a lot. And then my next one here, and I'm not calling the numbers because my numbering I think just went off at some point. It should actually be 16, but it's okay. I wrote 15. So, but anyway, what is number 12 here? The one man team model is ineffective and suboptimal. I saw this a lot. I became scandalized when we started doing the courses. I found out that there were so many people who are just like a one man team. I'm like, how do you cope? Some they would have agency support, some they don't have agency support. But for me, even if you have agency support, because the agents, most of the PR agencies that I see out there, excuse me, I mean, forgive me, but I just noticed that all they just do is media. They're very concerned with the tactical. Okay, let's buy how many slots. They're not concerned with strategy. And for me, that's why I would always say every PR team, even if it's intern or copper or somebody, let there be one other person that you can discuss strategy with. Because my observation has been that most of the PR agencies, they can't even, they don't know anything about strategy. They can't. I'm sorry if you're listening to me of a PR agency. I do you understand? That strategic thinking is because they're so focused on the media buying, the sponsorship, that money that is coming out, to take that time. And they don't realize that corporate organizations, perhaps the big ones, are more, what they need is the strategy. Tactics for them is not a big deal. Because what is worse is when you now do something tactically and then you're not getting the payoff. They hate that. And I can say this because I worked in an organization for 22 years. So I worked on the inside. I was a comms manager. I worked on the inside. I know the kind of conversations we had after meeting with PR agencies. And why for a long time, we ended up doing a lot of work by ourselves. And all we could ever ask the PR agencies to do was to go and buy media, buy this place. Once we decided strategy in-house, we just say, okay, go and do this. Okay, pay for this, pay for that, and that's it. Then we will be the ones even analyzing the report. Hardly before you see any of them coming and telling you, oh, this is, like media mentions or whatever, giving you an analysis. At the end of the day, they're just telling you, oh, this is just to show how they spent your money. Is that? Anyway, let me just pack that one there. So low entry level, I've talked about. Many do not know. That's number 13. What comes is that it's technical and it requires familiarity with research data and analytics. Truly, I don't even know how many of us do not understand this. Even whether it is PR, you are working for a PR agency or whatever, data is your friend. Research is your friend because the credibility of whatever you are doing comes through when you can say, this is what the analytics show. I ran Brand 24, whoever, or this AI tool, and it's telling me that on these keywords, this is your share of voice, this is your media mention, this is your sentiment analysis, and this is how it is growing over time. And then you tie it to the things that organization or business is trying to achieve. Because these are the conversations that are having in-house. And honestly, to a very large extent, if I look at the way that we position ourselves as comms professionals and practitioners in a lot of cases, I do not blame the business for the places, for how they treat some members of our profession. I mean, this is a family conversation that we're having here. I don't expect anybody who is not a professional or practitioner or interested in comms to be watching this video. Let's have a family conversation. Many of us are not presenting ourselves well enough because you are not even taking the trouble to be familiar with the data that is supposed to quantify or show the value of what you're doing, and then you are just expecting that people that are paying the money will continue to pay it. It doesn't work that way. So number 14, communications is an art and it's a science. If you are intellectually lazy, to be honest, you will struggle with comms. You can do PR. I'm sorry, I'm not saying what you think I'm saying. What I'm saying is that you can get away with it if you are doing a job. When I say intellectually lazy, the company, you don't want to sit down, you don't want to think, you don't like to write documents, you don't like to do research, you don't like to check analytics and do all of that. You can get by in PR depending on the area of PR that you're in, because really what you're just doing is you're coming up with events, you're working with vendors, you're managing vendors, you're doing a lot of pizzazzy things. You're not doing a lot of document creation or templating, or you can get away with it in PR, but in comms will expose you, because there is no way you can function as a comms practitioner without doing some research. I mean, there's a piece of work that I'm doing now where, it happens all the times in our briefs that we get in comms. They will not tell you that there's a research element. They just tell you, oh, come and help us do this thing. By the time you now come and into the job, you realize that there are a lot of questions that are unanswered. So what you have to then go and dig. So it's not as if they tell you, oh, come and do a research work. They tell us, come and do strategy. But in the process of writing the strategy, you will see that there is information you don't have. So it's either you are going to research within the organization or you're going to research out. So you have to be somebody who knows how to ask the right questions and how to find the answers to those questions. You also have to know how to structure your storyline, your strategy, come up with a methodology of how you're going to do what you're going to do. It's not just to just jump into it. And so it's an art and it's a science. And the reason why I'm sharing all of these things is that, as you've been seeing scrolling on that, we have a course coming up on the 26th of February. In fact, these days, if you notice, I didn't do too much promotion about the courses. And this year we're only doing 6 online live courses because I just felt, what? There's a lot of, we're doing a lot of advocacy about the profession. Anybody that wants to learn and grow, I don't think we shouldn't have to say too much. And also because I think my reflection is that I think people need to be, you have to get to a stage where you are ready to learn anew, to have that paradigm shift, and to recognize that what you have right now is not sufficient to take you further. And that's not something that we can make somebody else do. You have to get to that place by yourself. So, and so that's what we found. And that's it for me. So we've taken that approach this year. But if you feel that you're at that point where you want a little bit more, then by all means, please drop in next week, Thursday. Register. Enrollment is still ongoing. You can join us. We're going to be having a full day session online. I will be taking the session from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. And we're going to be going through the strategic communications framework. I'm going to be showing how to be more strategic about your work, how to manage leadership communications, how to develop a communication strategy and plan from scratch, how to apply the principles, and the structure that you can use to be effective. If you're that kind of person that that how to present your work or how to show that you are thinking in a coherent manner, all of that we're going to share on that day. And even if you feel that you are okay, but whatever, pop in, because another good thing about our class is that we bring people from different backgrounds and sectors. And sometimes you're not just, in fact, many times you're not just learning from me, you're learning from the people in the room, because we always have, and we have interesting people in our classes. That's one thing. And this February is not the next week's own is not going to be any different, because we have some people in there who we there are people you can learn a lot from. Let's just put it that way. And that's one good thing about our course. We have people who, some people come in, they are even quite senior. So now I'm like, why are you here? But they're like, no, you never stop learning. So if you're somebody that you want to, you are a one-man team, you have never had the opportunity to be in a learning environment with other comms practitioners, or you're at a crossroads in your professional journey, and you just want to be in a place where you can think or get inspiration about what is next for you and what are the options that are available, please drop in on a Thursday. Register for the course right now, and then you can join us in the session next week. So, communications is contextual. I think that's the last point. I want to make that point. Every organization practices it differently. That's true. And that creates a huge number of challenges for practitioners because it's until you enter the company or the environment before you know how it is practiced. In some offices, it is more of PR, and to them, PR to them is organizing parties and events. It's purely tactical, it's very mandatory, very rudimentary, very I don't even know what. Some they will even tell you are the one that's supposed to be managing, I don't even know, car park, or they can throw all kinds of rubbish on you. And then some organizations really, really see comms the way it's supposed to be. They're expecting you to drive brand visibility, internal communications, employee engagement, organizational effectiveness. They're expecting you to increase the share of voice, to help them with advocacy and influencing. They're expecting you to come up with marketing communication strategy, amplify the voice of their brand, things like that. So before jumping into any position or role, it's important for you to understand how they are practicing communications in that context. That's really, really important. I think this was one of my reflections. And then there's some places where, like I said, it's just a certain, okay, I don't want to give you an impression that PR is a particular type. What I'm saying, for them, they don't even see comms as something that is intellectual. They just like just put up banner. It's just activities, activities, and activities. There is no moment of reflection. So you're just doing things. In fact, whenever I hear people saying, when I ask what's the objective of a campaign, and they say buzz, honestly I have an issue with it. How can the objective of a campaign be just to create buzz? So, and I see that a lot of people operate with that. I'm like, buzz and what? For it, I mean, I don't understand. As a brand, it cannot be buzz for the sake of buzz now. It's buzz for the sake of something else. So this question answer is not complete. Because if somebody like an influencer, if you're a musician and you say you want to create buzz, it's about I want to promote my new music. Do you understand? Or I have a new movie out there. It's not just buzz for the sake of buzz. Or I want to become a household brand. Or I want to be a socialite. Nobody just does buzz for the sake of buzz. But many times I've had people say, I've had this from practitioners. I said, what's the objective of campaign? It's just to create buzz. Oh Lord, trouble day. So um I think for a lot of us, we need to make a paradigm shift. And it's important because the world that we're in right now, I think, is leaning more to the com side of things than the PR. The PR is still there and it's not going to go away. But I mean that there is a there is more of a I think there are enough people who know how to do PR. Where there's a skills gap is in the com side. So I would say to anyone, if you want to differentiate yourself, you have to grow in comms. Even though I mean PR, like I said, PR over there, but there are far more. I mean in Nigeria, pick and choose. There are more, thousands of people doing PR. But strategic comms, not that many, not as many, not as many. So I'm going to leave it at that. And a lot of what I've said here, it looks like I just gave a reel of challenges, but there are ways around it. We talked about, certifications, going for trainings, volunteering, and putting professional networks as well. Putting yourself in spaces where all you meet other professionals who may one day be aware of openings and put you in. If you don't have a professional network you're affiliated to, then yeah, there's there will be struggles because our profession is not that all over the place that you have to be there must be a professional network, particularly if you want to enter a certain type of level, like, I mean, or you want to move in a particular direction, either institutional, public sector, political, or whatever, you need to be affiliated with a professional network. And by the way, every other profession is affiliated with a professional network. Lawyers have their networks, accountants have their networks. So that's it. Again, unfortunately for many of us in comms, again, that's part of the disorder that we see, where people choose, they're like, well, and there are reasons for that. I understand that as well. But thank God for things like places like the Comms Avenue that has a very strong platform. I always recommend anybody to be very active in that. IABC is also International Association of Business Communicators. You can also join. We have a branch, a West Africa group. If you want more details, just put it in the chat. I can share with you. But you have to find a community, a network of professionals to be attached to, because they are the ones that will know about openings. There's no point. People from other practice areas will not know which new job has come out. They may know once in a while, but that's one. But in that network, these things you will find, and then when things come up, people think about you. So anyway, I'm going to leave it at that. I've exceeded my time limit. I hope this was useful for you. Thank you very much for watching. And in the next video, I'll talk a little bit more about what we can do differently. But most importantly, enroll for the course coming up on the 26th, and I'll look forward to seeing you in class. Thank you very much.